Okay, so you want to own a university. Here's the first strange thing. You can't. Nobody owns Harvard. There are no shareholders, no stock ticker. It is, legally, a nonprofit, a charity. That charity is sitting on $57 billion. That is more than the market value of Ford. It's more than the GDP of most countries on Earth. And it belongs to a school, an institution whose stated business is teaching 22-year-olds philosophy. Here's the second strange thing. There are around 4,000 universities and colleges in the United States, and they all call themselves the same thing. They are not the same thing. A handful of them are among the most financially indestructible institutions humanity has ever built. Most of the rest are quietly running out of money, and 16 of them shut their doors in 2025 alone. By the end of this video, you'll understand what a university actually sells, because it is not education. You'll understand why the price on the website is, at most schools, more than half fiction. And you'll understand the number, a single demographic number, set in stone 18 years ago, that is now arriving on campus and deciding which of these 4,000 institutions get to exist in 20 years. Let's start with what everyone thinks the business is. Ask anyone how a university makes money, and the answer is instant. Tuition. Obviously. The sticker price at a private American university now runs $80,000 to $90,000 a year, all in. Multiply by tens of thousands of students, and it looks like the most lucrative subscription business ever devised. A product every ambitious family feels they cannot refuse, sold by institutions with centuries of brand equity where demand renews itself every September. Parents assume they're funding gleaming lecture halls. Critics assume they're funding administrator salaries. Both assume tuition is the engine. At the schools whose names you know, it barely matters. At Harvard, tuition and other education revenue is around 21% of the money coming in. A fifth. And most undergraduates don't even pay the full sticker. Families under $200,000 a year now attend tuition-free. So if the most famous school in the world is not primarily in the tuition business, what business is it in? Harvard is an investment fund, not metaphorically, mechanically. Its endowment, $57 billion, is run by a professional asset management company with a portfolio that reads like Wall Street, private equity, hedge funds, real estate. Each year, the fund pays out around 5%. In fiscal 2025, that distribution was $2.5 billion, 37% of the university's entire operating revenue and its single largest source of money. Larger than tuition, larger than anything. And the endowment is only the first arm. Federal research funding brings in close to $1 billion a year, and buried inside every grant is something called indirect cost recovery, a negotiated overhead rate that routes money to buildings, utilities, and administration. At many large universities, there's also a hospital system attached, which can quietly account for as much revenue as the entire academic side. There's real estate. The university is often the largest landlord in its own city. There's licensing on patents. And there's philanthropy. An alumni network engineered over generations to keep giving. The teaching, the lectures, the dorms, the football Saturdays, sits on top of a diversified financial conglomerate that would function, frankly, even if the students stopped coming. The federal government has noticed. As of 2025, the largest endowments are hit with a new tiered excise tax reaching 8% of investment income, a tax bracket triggered by holding more than $2 million per student. Harvard holds roughly $2.9 million per student. Its estimated bill, around $300 million a year. Read that again. The tax code now treats the country's oldest university the way it treats an investment fund. Because functionally, that's what it is. That gap between what an institution claims to sell and where it actually comes from is what this channel exists to expose. Subscribe, because every business we open up has one. But here's the thing. Everything I just described applies to maybe a few dozen schools. For the other 3,900, the machine runs backwards. Most universities have no $50 billion fund, no hospital, no patent portfolio. They have one product, enrollment, and a sticker price almost nobody pays. Here is the number that explains the entire bottom half of American higher education. At private nonprofit colleges, the average tuition discount for incoming freshmen has reached 57%. a record. It climbs almost every single year. Think about what that means. For every dollar of tuition on the website, the average school hands 57 cents straight back as scholarship. The $65,000 price is a fiction, an anchor. The real price is whatever it takes to get you to enroll. They call it financial aid, and some of it genuinely is, but at tuition-dependent schools, much of it is something else wearing generosity as a costume. A price war. Every school discounts to fill seats, which forces the school next door to discount deeper, which drags the sticker price higher by kadayang. Because the bigger the fake number, the bigger the scholarship they can offer, and the more flattered the family feels accepting it. It's the mattress store playbook running inside institutions with Latin mottos. And unlike the mattress store, these schools can't win the war. Net tuition revenue, what's actually left after the discounts, has been stagnating or falling across the sector. The fixed costs don't fall with it. Faculty, buildings, heating bills, compliance, all of it stays. The business only works if the seats stay full. Which brings us to the number I mentioned at the start. The one set in stone 18 years ago. In 2008, the American economy collapsed, and Americans responded the way people always respond to financial catastrophe. They stopped having babies. The birth rate fell after the Great Recession, and it never recovered. Demographers watched that missing generation move through the school system for 18 years like a shadow moving across a field. Completely visible, completely measurable, completely unstoppable. And they gave its arrival date a name: the enrollment cliff. The number of American high school graduates peaked in 2025. It is now falling, projected to drop 13% over the coming years, roughly 500,000 fewer graduates annually. The population of 18-year-olds is not expected to exceed 4 million again. This century. This is not a recession that ends. It is not a policy that reverses. It is arithmetic. The customers a university needed in 2030 had to be born in 2012, and they weren't. Now run the two tiers through that arithmetic. For the endowment schools, the cliff is a non-event. Harvard rejects 19 of every 20 applicants. A smaller pool changes nothing. When your biggest revenue source is a hedge fund, a demographic dip doesn't touch you. For the tuition-dependent school already handing back 57 cents on the dollar, the cliff is the whole story. Fewer students in a price war with fixed costs. 16 colleges closed in 2025. Analysis from the Federal Reserve suggests as many as 80 could close by 2029, with over 100 more flagged as elevated risk. And the collapse has a geography. The birth decline hit the Midwest and Northeast first and hardest, which is exactly where the small, tuition-dependent private colleges cluster. The cliff is arriving first at the doorstep of the schools least able to survive it. Some are dying by the very weapon they fought with. Iowa Wesleyan, 181 years old, closed in part because of the discounts it kept giving as it struggled to fill seats. It discounted itself to death. And the pressures aren't only demographic. The research money that helps float big universities lost them over $7 billion in unreimbursed overhead in a single recent year, while Washington has fought to cap those rates outright. Athletics, the thing outsiders assume prints money, loses money at the overwhelming majority of schools that field teams. Outside a few dozen giants, the stadium is a marketing expense wearing shoulder pads. Which raises the question I want your answer to, down in the comments. Knowing all this, would you rather own the campus or the endowment, the buildings and the brand, or the fund quietly attached to them? Because after everything we've just covered, I suspect most of you will pick the same one. So what is a university, economically? The honest answer is that the word means two different things, and almost every argument you've heard about college confuses them. A handful of institutions are perpetual financial machines, investment funds with lecture halls attached, so durable that governments now tax them like the asset managers they resemble. They were never really in the tuition business, and no demographic chart threatens them. They will exist in 100 years. Everything else is a high fixed cost enrollment business, selling a discounted product into a customer pool that is now shrinking on an 18-year delay. In a price war, none of them can exit. Some will adapt, recruiting adult learners, building online programs, merging. Many will not. So when someone tells you the university system is untouchable, they're describing the first tier. When someone tells you it's collapsing, They're describing the second. Both are right. They're just not talking about the same business. And the diploma? At the top, the product was never really the education. It's the brand, the network, the signal, which is precisely why the schools with the least need for students will always have the longest line at the door. And the schools that need students most are the ones watching the line get shorter every single September. If you want to see how deep this pattern runs, institutions that look eternal, running on math that isn't, subscribe. Next time, private schools, the ones charging $60,000 a year, where at most of them the tuition doesn't even cover the cost of the education. That business shouldn't exist. It does. We'll get into how. I'll see you then.